They say empires fall by the sword, but just as often they rot from within the palace walls. In the year 38 CE, at the absolute peak of Roman power, a young bride stepped into the magnificent Palatine Palace. Her name was Valeria Messalina. She was only 15, chosen to marry Emperor Claudius, a man more than twice her age, physically frail but holding the immense power of the empire. To the people of Rome, this marriage seemed like a good sign, a promise of stability. Here was a noble girl, a fertile empress, who could restore virtue to the ruling family after the madness of Caligula's reign. But behind the wedding ceremonies and public celebrations, a very different story was beginning. A story that would make Messalina one of the most infamous figures in Roman history. At first, she played the part of the perfect empress perfectly. Ancient writers describe her as stunningly beautiful pale skin, golden hair, the very picture of aristocratic Roman grace. She performed her duties with poise, gave Claudius 2 children, and appeared in public with all the modesty expected of her. Roman society had a strict divide for women. You were either a matrona a chaste and respectable wife, or a meretrix a woman of the night. Messalina was expected to be virtue itself, but it seems the massive gap between what Rome demanded of her and what she truly wanted became her downfall. The main historical sources writers like Tacitus, Suetonius, and Juvenal paint a picture of a woman driven by unstoppable desires, a thirst for rebellion, and a desperate need to find power in breaking the rules. According to their shocking accounts, Messalina didn't spend her nights in the emperor's bed. Instead, she would put on a disguise and slip out into the city's darkest corners. They claim she would visit the brothels in the notorious Subura district, even competing with the city's professional prostitutes in acts of excess that scandalized the capital. We'll never know for sure if these stories are the absolute truth or just dramatic fables designed to make a moral point. But the fact that so many different writers repeated them shows just how deeply she disturbed the Roman sense of right and wrong. These sensational stories, whether true or exaggerated, tapped into a deep-seated fear. The fear that the moral heart of the empire was decaying behind its beautiful marble exterior. And it wasn't just happening on the streets. Back inside the palace, Messalina's power and influence were growing stronger every day. Banquets that were supposed to be for serious state business allegedly turned into scenes of wild debauchery. Powerful senators, decorated generals, and men from the oldest noble families were all pulled into her web of intrigue. Some were seduced, others were blackmailed and coerced. It was said she used humiliation and fear to gain political power more effectively than any army or law could. Her dark genius, if you can call it that, was in discovering that shame could bind powerful men to her more tightly than any chains. Messalina wasn't just breaking rules. She was using the fallout to build her own shadow empire, one scandal at a time, right under the nose of her husband, the most powerful man in the world. Have you ever heard of an empress so audacious she ran a secret villa for blackmail right in the heart of Rome? This is the story of Messalina, whose name became a whispered legend of corruption and scandal. By the early 40s CE, the whispers about Empress Messalina had grown into a roar. It's said she operated a lavish villa near the Campus Martius, but this wasn't for parties. According to later writers, it was a trap. Roman nobles would be invited for a private gathering only to find themselves ensnared in situations designed to compromise them. Her loyal attendants would document everything, creating a treasure trove of secrets that Messalina used to bend Rome's elite to her will. Whether this imperial brothel was a concrete reality or just vicious gossip spun by her enemies, the story stuck. It became a powerful symbol for the decay festering at the very core of the mighty Roman Empire. Imagine the fear and paranoia that must have gripped the city's most powerful families. The climax of this imperial drama arrived in the year 48 CE, with her husband, the Emperor Claudius, away overseeing the port at Ostia. Messalina did something so bold it bordered on insanity. She decided to marry her lover, a handsome and well-respected senator named Gaius Caelius, and this wasn't a secret affair. It was a full-blown public ceremony, complete with witnesses, priests, and legally binding contracts. Under Roman law, this was bigamy, a serious crime. But for an empress, it was something far worse. It was an act of high treason. It was a direct challenge to the emperor's authority, a public declaration that she, not Claudius, held the real power in Rome. When the news finally reached Claudius in Ostia, his initial disbelief quickly hardened into a cold fury. For years, he had either tolerated Messalina's behavior or perhaps had chosen to turn a blind eye to her excesses. But this was a line that could not be uncrossed. The emperor, finally spurred into action, made his move. He dispatched his most loyal soldiers with a single, grim objective. They marched to the beautiful gardens of the Palatine Hill, where the Empress, who had ruled through a mixture of charm and terror, was about to face her reckoning. The end came swiftly. Ancient historians agree on the final, desperate moments of her life. Cornered and trembling, the once powerful Messalina tried to take her own life but couldn't bring herself to do it. Her courage, which had carried her through so many political gambles, failed her at the last second. It was a Roman officer who ended her life, executing her with a single thrust of his sword. But her punishment didn't end with her death. Claudius, determined to wipe her from history, ordered a damnatio memoria, the condemnation of memory. Her statues were torn down, her name was chiseled off public monuments, and every effort was made to pretend she had never existed. Yet, history has a funny way of resisting erasure. The more Rome tried to silence the memory of Messalina, the more her legend grew. The story of the beautiful, ambitious, and defiant young empress became immortal. Today, if you walk among the ruins of the Palatine Hill in Rome, with its faded frescoes and fractured columns, you can almost feel her presence, a shadow lingering in the place where desire and domination became one and the same. So, was she truly the depraved monster her enemies painted her to be? Or was she a victim of a patriarchal system that used moral propaganda to destroy powerful women? The truth is likely somewhere in between. Messalina's story serves as a timeless parable about how great empires rot, not from external threats, but from within. They corrode through the slow, creeping poison of corruption, the intoxicating abuse of power, and the seductive whisper of scandal. Her legacy is a chilling reminder that the foundations of power are often more fragile than they appear. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to ancient Rome. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the annals of history. Let me know in the comments what you think about Messalina's story. See you next time.